Hey guys, Lord Sora here. In the past week, I've been trying to make one specific ability work in endgame to see if it's actually any good, and I'm sure this comes with no surprise. It's the Blood Wave. I've been playing with Shadow Wave for a while, both in PvE and PvP, and it's absolutely my favorite ability and button to press in Diablo 4 and Necromancer class. And Blood Wave portion of the skill received a significant buff, so I was actually curious if there is a way to make a build with Blood Wave where it's your main damage dealer. And I wanted to take on a challenge to see if there's actually something with the Blood Wave that we can do that it can be somewhat decent, because this skill actually has a whopping 450% damage coefficient, and it must do something decent. That's what I was thinking. And overall, in the end, turns out damage is not the problem, because actually I was able to get this thing hit about 700 million at times. But the problem is the playstyle and how expensive the build is in terms of aspects and tempering you need to put on the gear to make the whole thing work. Like, you need tidal aspect and fast blood aspect, which means you can't pick up potential offensive aspects there to benefit from multipliers. Then you need a lot of ultimate CDR and a CDR on gear. So you start to lose some other things when you try to accommodate these other things. So if I actually can make a change on this skill, if I think it was to be reworked, I would make at least the tidal aspect integrated into the skill itself, so that will actually save us an offensive aspect slot for us. I think in the end, build end up being somewhat decent, and I would only suggest you play this build if you are a Bloodwave enthusiast like I am. With being fully honest here, I can't act like you will copy this build and start farming Horde tier 8s or going to start pushing the pits at very high level and going to have the best time of your life. That won't be the case. You will see in the background boss fights are a big pain, and tier 8 boss fights also take a long time, especially if you get unlucky with boss RNG. I got the one in the, if you watch the video, you will see I got the one that's jumps all over the place, which was a super counter to the Blood Wave. And but yes, showing everything here with full transparency, so you know what you're yourself getting into. The pit gameplay and the tier Horde 8 gameplay will be playing in the background. But I can say that I was able to comfortably do pit tier 120, and then I was able to comfortably do tier 8s. The survival felt good. It wasn't really that efficient and fast, but the build was quite fun to play, and actually got, was able to do the end game content in the game. So it is somewhat of a viable build. It is very, very fun build to play. A lot of action per minute, a lot of positioning and timing and keeping your buffs up. You need to dodge through enemies to benefit from flicker step. Keep cursing them to get the Starless Sky stacks active. Picking up blood orbs manually, it's like a mini game to get your Ratmus Vigor to your Blood Wave to overpower. It's really fun. You use Reap, you create a corpse, you group up enemies, you Blood Wave, you go through them, you dodge roll and curse at the same time. So you will see maybe in the background that I am cursing and dodging. It's just to keep the stacks up. It's quite fun, a lot of button pressing, and like I said, on the positive side, I was able to finish tier 8s and was able to do pit 120. I think it can go a bit higher on the pits, and it can farm tier 7s quite efficiently. I was actually doing that a little bit to get some mats. But one highlight of the build is that it has no problem surviving. Even you will see in the gear, I'm actually running int gems on the gear, and I can full-blown face tank desecrated hits and hordes, mainly thanks to running Tyrell's Might, tons of DR, running Reap, another DR, running Scent of Dead, another DR, so have some DR from the skill passive, and we're running Flicker Step on top of that. That gives us more DR from close, so, and we're always close to the enemy. So a lot of DR there that helps us survive and feel tanky. I will leave more gameplay example from Hordes and Pit playing in the rest of the video. You can watch a larger sample size and be the judge of it yourself. if you want to play this build, but I want to talk about gear and keep this video as short as possible. It's probably not going to be short, but and the detailed build planner will be linked in description. Alright, let's talk about the gear. This can be an expensive build to play just because we are running pretty much 1, 2, 3, and 4 Ubers. Shaco is not definitely a must have, but it definitely helps, especially if you have if you can masterwork the cooldown reduction. You ideally want your blood wave to be as less as 18 seconds or under 20 seconds preferably. However, obviously you see that I have almost 25 seconds, and this actually makes the gameplay quite rough. So the part of the reason the content in the tier 8 in the pits I was struggling was that my blood wave cooldown wasn't as at the desired level. I will touch on that in a bit, but that's part of the reason. Can you still play it? I did it, so you can too. But ideally you want Shaco and you want CDR on it. But if not, you can also have a regular helmet with CDR and use it that way as well, and that can give you some other tempering options such as life or corpse tendril size and things like that. Second item is Ethereal's Might. I got lucky, I got the DR a GA here. This item is absolutely goated. It makes you so tanky that you can even see I'm actually running int gems on the gear to have as much as damage as possible due to being able to run Ethereal's Might, and I can survive tier Horde 8s no problem with this. I can tank a desecrator hit as well. It's crazy, just mainly because of this item, and it should quite be the same even if you don't have the GA damage reduction. But I have only also 45k life with elixir, of course, but I had no problem surviving tier 8s and pits. If you do, you can also drop some of these int gems and put more life gems to get that. But I found out that my damage is actually quite higher when I run int gems, so that's what I went with. Next item on the glows, we were in obviously title aspect, so the build can work. Intelligence, max life, critical chance is our choices. We don't need as much attack speed on this build just to be able to, have enough to be able to cast the blood wave effectively. On the pants, we are running Blood Moon Breeches to get that nice 150% multiplier for our overpowered. And on the boots, we run a Flicker Step just to get more cooldown reduction. It's a nice gameplay feature where you dodge through enemies, you get cooldown reduction up to 10 seconds, which you should get with the, you pull the enemies with corpse tendrils and you dodge through them. It's a quite fun mechanic. Another thing is I actually have a GG Flicker Step here. Like I said, I was actually really trying to see how high I can push the blood waves damage. That was my whole goal, the challenge I adopted to be able to test. And one thing that I was trying is that I realized this season, partially if we do a lower damage is because our additive bucket is actually lower than usual. We are no longer able to temper on every slot because we're running a lot of unique, so sometimes our additive is actually lower than ideal. So this item gives us a huge amount of additive, almost 800% ultimate damage, and I masterworked it twice to be able to see if it's actually going to boost my damage up, and that's partially why I'm masterworking that. And it gives us also a DR. Like I mentioned, we have Tyraels. This gives us a DR from close as well, and we feel quite tanky with this build, quite tanky. And then yeah, this item is really good if you don't need a 4GA1, but you definitely want a Flicker Step on this build, and masterwork the ultimate damage twice, and 1 movement speed should get the job done. Speaking of additive, I think a lot of builds were realizing that the moment they put the grandfather, their damage has a significant jump. I think that was mainly because how neglected the additive bucket was, and then once we put some more additive in there, and if you have low additive bucket, don't have enough damage in the additive bucket, the moment you put more additive, you will see a significant damage boost. So that's what Grandfather does, and partially alongside a flicker step, I was trying to keep my additive bucket as high as possible. So I put Grandfather on, and I think it's the solid choice here, especially considering we don't have many other aspect options for this build to get a good damage multiplier. We could run Grasping Veins, obviously, and we can run Great Feast. However, when you run Great Feast, you have to run Essence per second, and there's no way for us to really put that because we're running Flicker Step on boots, and all the other spots are taken by uniques. So Grandfather has been a good choice here. On Amulet, the stats you want is definitely Coalescent Blood and Ties of Blood passives if you can't get them, similar to I think Blood Surge builds. Tempering, you want the Blood overpower damage and ultimate cooldown reduction. Unfortunately, I bricked this item, so I have Blood Orbs Restore plus 9 Essence, and I would like to have a CDR instead of max life. However, that is also not the case. So this item, actually, I had to go for it because I couldn't find another amulet that was giving me these two passives, especially Tides of Blood being GA. So like I said, my goal was to see how high I can do damage with this build. So I went with it, but that was partially why you have seen earlier in the video I have only 24 second or 25 seconds Blood Wave, which made the gameplay a lot more difficult, especially during bossing. But if I had 18 seconds, those bossing encounters would feel a lot better, and I think that would advertise the build a little bit better. But that was partially, being fully transparent here. That's the case. You want double CDR here, and an amulet like this with two passives. Our second ring, obviously we're running Fast Blood for build to function, and we're again running int max life and attack speed. We only run attack speed on our obviously from Starless Sky and Fast Blood as well. So and Temperings, you want ultimate cooldown reduction and Blood overpower. This is not an ideal masterworking. I would rather hit the int here or even max life, but just first try it happened this way. I just left it as it is. It's not being a total waste. So, and then we're running Starless Sky. This item I was using for other builds, testing on other builds. So plus 5 core skills is actually not that valuable, not good for this build. You would rather have a crit chance or attack speed, but also we both capping the crit chance, without it either. So overall, you either want to masterwork the attack speed or crit chance or even a lucky chance, but not the core skills because it doesn't do much for us in this build. But overall, yeah, this covers the gear. Obviously, I can do a lot more improvements on this gear to make this build better, but I think I am happy with where it stands right now, just to be able to release it with you guys, to give you guys an option to play with Blood Wave. Let's talk about the skill tree as well and how we actually use our abilities. Reap, we take in Reap at first and we take in all the way here. It's actually a great fight starter, especially during bossing. If there's no corpse available, we can just get the fight going with this one and have tendrils available to us at all times. So we're taking Reap here, especially in some fights. You don't want to just shoot the wave first. You can just pull in, hit with Reap once, create a corpse, and gather mobs around that corpse to shoot the wave and hit all of them at the same time as some of the nice mechanics of the build. So we're taking Reap. And I also always been talking about the tankiness that we have with this build is we are actually getting another 15% damage reduction from Reap. That definitely helps us to survive more in encounters. On the second, we're not taking any of this. We're just taking Hued Flesh. Get to the next cluster here. We're taking Blood Mist, all 5 points here, and this also gives us a corpse as well. But like I said, this is our oh shit button, and we are actually taking Bone Prison here. I found that this helps, especially during boss encounters, to keep the vulnerability up. You really want to be able to shoot your wave at the right times when it's gonna do the most damage possible, and that is actually a quite challenging thing to do. So especially you want the opponent, you want the enemy to the mobs to be vulnerable, and when you cast the wave you get that title. The second wave also hits harder, the third wave also hits harder, so it's important to keep the vulnerability up, and the both Reap with Tendrils and Bone Prison helps us do that. We're also taking obviously this one, but we're not taking any of this because we don't get much benefit out of these. And here we're taking Grim Harvest, just 1 point. We're not using an essence on this build. Going to the next one, we're taking Fueled by Death just to have another multiplier here because we are going to be casting Tendrils on cooldown. I'm taking Death's Embrace, another DR, another damage multiplier. We're taking Death's Approach. We are actually trying to go fast with this build. The movement is key. Being able to dodge through them, being able to relocate the fight as well. So, and then we have Amplify. We're taking Decryptify all the way. And then our blood passives cluster here, like I mentioned, Tide's Blood. This is itself only a 90% multiplier. If you have an amulet like I have shown in the gear section, and then Coalesced Blood also gives us 36% multiplier. So like I said, I was trying to go all out on damage here. Again, we're taking Coach Tendrils, picking up vulnerability just because we already generate tons of blood orbs, and Vuln is actually more valuable for us. Going to the next section, obviously we're taking the Blood Wave cluster here. We're taking Inspiring Leader to reach the crit cap. We are crit capped on this build the way I planned it. And then we're taking Standalone, another damage reduction. We're taking Memento Mori, and as last we're taking Ratma's Vigor. Overall, I think this sort of made a fun build option, especially if you're a Blood Wave enthusiast like me. I don't think, and to restate, I don't think this build is S tier, A tier even, or even B tier. I would simply put it into C tier, but it can still do most endgame stuff and farm hordes efficiently with group or tier 7 solo. Next I'll be working on min-maxing Spirit Wave with Scribblet, and then potentially gonna do some Bloodlance build as well. So if you're interested then please like and subscribe and consider coming back to the channel. But this season I'm really enjoying tier crafting all different kind of play styles and pushing and testing things and all the mechanics to get familiar with all the aspects of the class, not just Shadow. And stay tuned for the upcoming new builds. I have a lot more builds that I want to do this season for PvE. On the other hand, obviously I will still be doing some PvP content. I should be releasing an updated version of the Shadow Wave and other PvP planners for other classes as well. So if you're here for PvP, don't worry, I did not forget you. PvP has always been the true endgame for me, and also I've been helping people in my Discord. They are PvPing currently with their Necromancer, so I've been just giving them planners or just giving them tips in general. So if you haven't joined my Discord, that info will be in the description as well. With that being said, Lord Sora here. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.